Hiya, Tony here. How are you? Now, I am in Worle. This is my old school, priory school. The reason I am in Worle, which you've probably never heard of, is I am doing a follow-up to my video on my hometown of Weston-super-Mare. Turd Towns did another great video on Weston, this time about the best and the worst places. And one of the worst places was Worle, which is the part of Weston where I grew up. So, I thought, a bit like the Weston-super-Mare general video, let's have a little wander around Worle and see how bad it really is. So I lived in Worle since the early 80s, and it's fair to say it has changed quite a lot. Back then, a lot of it was shiny and new, so brand new housing, brand new roads, brand new pathways, all that sort of stuff, so fantastic. However, over the last 35, 40 years, I don't really think anything's been done. You'll find a lot of it is really overgrown and grotty and tired, which is a shame because it's still home after all. But I'm going to take you on a little tour of some of the places where I used to hang around and just see how rundown they actually are. Worle is a village or a parish of Weston-super-Mare. It is to the east of the town. As you can see, Worle is actually quite a lot of greenery around there. So Worle's sort of an enclave just where the motorway comes in. It's developed a heck of a lot. Initially, there was quite a lot of stuff around Sainsbury's area. And then the sprawl headed out and it's gone further and further out here. But yeah, so usually it is defined by its landmarks. Turd Towns called it North Worle, but nobody locally says that. The locals just refer to it as Worle, no north, south, east and west. Rather than that, we tend to use the landmarks. So we'll say Sainsbury's, Castle Patch, Lynch Farm, the farm shop, all those sort of things. It's safe to say that Sainsbury's and the immediate vicinity is the hub of Worle. The Sainsbury's has been there for donkey's years, but has expanded considerably. He's now got a Starbucks in there. Used to have sort of a travel agent. It's got an Argos. There's a parade of shops around there too. They're still going. The newsagent, a pharmacy, Crockers, which was the old Clark's Shoes outlet. But in recent years, recent is probably the last 20 years, I suppose, there's been much more expansion. There's a massive TK Maxx, which is actually pretty good for a TK Maxx. They've got a McDonald's, they've got other big shops, Aldi and Home Bargain. So anyone who is in the area of Worle, anyone who lives here, this is the place you go. Worle does have a high street of sorts. There's a few shops on there, and I remember going down there as a kid. Let's see what it's like now. We would usually come down to Worle High Street for one reason, and that was to rent videos. There were two video stores on Worle High Street, Video Vision and Whirlwind. This was Video Vision. It's now a disabled shop. So things have changed. Whirlwind was the OG, the original one, and it's now an Eastern European supermarket. So again, times change. I'm not sure how many people remember Whirlwind, but there was a great picture they had, or great painting in the window they did of Marilyn Monroe on that iconic scene in the white dress. So yeah, fond memories of that. Used to bag some chips from here, try and get home before they got cold, which we never managed to do. Watch a film, and sometimes it might have been maybe something that we shouldn't have been watching, and have a bag of chips. Those are the days. As you can see from these pictures, it's a little bit depressing, a little bit dowdy, a little bit dull along Worle High Street. A few empty shops, just general wear and tear. I suppose one good thing about Worle High Street is at least a lot of the shops are independent. So it's not just a bland line of identical corporate behemoths. There seem to be a few sort of nice, quirky little shops there. Nothing that really appeals to me. Obviously, a few more empty shops, which is never a good sign. I actually do remember coming down to this part as well as a kid because our hairdressers, we used to have a hairdresser just up here on the left. And I remember coming along because it was, look at the state of that road, all the stuff on the pavement just terrible. But yeah, so as you see, this is all rather grim as well. All the weeds, the greyness. That was the old hairdressers. And that used to be a library, World Library. Used to like going to World Library and renting out books. So that's World High Street, and some of the places near World High Street are also a little bit run down and have seen considerably better days. There are actually some nice places in Worle, if you know where you're looking. There used to be a few nice roads, and if you go up towards the Wilbury side of things where the woods are, you'll get some fantastic views overlooking Sand Bay or Western Town. Lots of the housing developments in Worle were built in the 1970s and 80s, and it is clear to see there has been very, very little upkeep of the area. Just wandering around, there are the fences, the you can see the floor here, the amount of work that's been done. They just patch over things, cement things. It's like a patchwork of ugly concrete cement. In addition to the cracks and general wear and tear, it really, really is a bit of a shame that the council can't get around to relaying this. I don't drive, but apparently the potholes on the road are also terrible. So yeah, unfortunately, not the prettiest. One thing I do remember quite fondly, actually, is there was a load of alleyways in World that sort of linked up different parts of the village. And it was always such good fun bombing down there on your bike. However, going through these areas now, you can just see how dilapidated they've become. There is trash everywhere. The fence panels are all pathetic and weedy and rotten. There's just so sad to see this state and the fact that it just, I'm lost for words. These alleyways are obviously very poorly lit as well, so it's definitely not worth walking down there at night time because you're not going to be particularly safe. Yeah, you'll find it's all pretty tired. One weird thing about World is they actually, in terms of the design, put a load of green space in. However, they don't seem to have touched the green space for years. And there is so much of it that's overgrown and grotty and miserable. And it's a shame because green space is good space. So this is Castle Batch. Castle Batch was a bit of a haunt for lots of young people back in the day. I'm not sure if it's still the case or if it's quieting down a bit. I didn't come here that often because I was a bit of a square loner, so it was the place that people used to come, perhaps do things they shouldn't do. But I have two fond memories of Castle Batch. The first one is fireworks. This was the place where they did the fireworks display, so always remember coming here and rolling down those hills, and also when it snowed. So the hills for tobogganing were also great fun. So those are probably my favourite memories of Castle Batch. There was no nefarious intoxication or any other bad behaviour, at least on my part. Now, I do remember Castlebatch having a pretty good view from the little mound at the top, which I suppose is as good as you're going to get in Weston. There is obviously still a lot of things going on. You can see there's quite a lot of tire marks on people joyriding or just revving up their bikes or quads or whatever it is, so you can expect that. Definitely avoid it at night. Again, you can see that it's poorly lit and quite exposed. But at least it is a green space, so in the daytime, it is pretty passable, if somewhat grotty and grimy. The other green space we had as kids was Lynch Farm. This was accessed through one of World's fantastic little underpasses. There was quite a few of these running down Queensway. They have filled in a couple of them, but they are still there. They're obviously a bit of a haven for graffiti and bad behaviour, although the ones near the school they've tried to make it look a little bit pretty. Anyway, so there's a little bonus World factoid for you. Lynch Farm, you walk up some stairs and it's a fairly sparse green area. Again, good for walking dogs. When we were up here, this was the only place that had a football goalposts. This was a long time ago, so we would come up here quite a lot because otherwise you're playing with your jumpers as goalposts, which is never good. Pretty minimalistic here as well, mainly dog walkers. There is a swing and roundabout and sort of a little park thing that's always kind of been there in different incarnations. But yeah, so that would be the other major green space that you have in Worle. I am stood in front of Worle Rec. Rec as in short for recreational ground, not wreck as in dismal, desolated ruins. In fact, it's actually better than I remember when I was a kid, because what we used to do, because now it's all locked up, let's see, where are we? Now it's all locked up. We used to play football on these fields and it was all open to the public, and that meant the amount of people that came with their dogs and the amount of poop that was all over the field was shocking. So every weekend it would tend to be, let's go and play football and get covered in poop. But good to see they've locked it up and they've kind of made it look like the pitches are cordoned off, so well done whoever is in charge of that. I am walking down Queensway, which is the main kind of thoroughfare that links through Worle, named after the Queen, of course, opened during the Jubilee, Silver, I believe. This place was in a bad way for quite a while. Lots of the grass was really overgrown and ugly, but it seems like they've actually trimmed it. So well done, council, for finally actually getting your act together. Now, large parts of Worle are residential. When I say residential, I mean estates, not council estates, no, but sort of developments, late 70s, 80s, early 90s. So you kind of get very similar looking houses, ranging from kind of the red bricky ones from the 70s, 80s to some of the more sort of yellowy ones from the early 90s. But it's definitely been a sprawl. It's got massive since I was a kid. People also love their souped up cars in Weston-super-Mare, so don't be surprised that you find a lot of people, I'm not saying these people who may live with mum and dad, but have a nice Subaru or spruced up sports car. So you will probably see a lot of cars going up and down the Queensway because most people in Weston drive. However, there are a few other fun little things that tickle my nostalgia berries along the Queensway, and let's talk about some of them now. So this is what was the farm shop. So the farm shop used to actually be a farm shop back in the day. However, by the time I was a kid, it just become a newsagent. However, it was still called the farm shop. However, come the 90s, I think early 90s, it outgrew and they wanted somewhere bigger, so they built this one. And that one then turned into a fish and chip shop, Julio's Fish and Chips. And that's been there since maybe 93, 94, a long time. Anyway, so it's just changed, but I'm not sure if that's changed ownership or whatever, but Seamaster. So that was the fish and chip shop. Anyway, I was talking to earlier about having to walk to Worle High Street, so that was a bit of a trek. So you'd have to put them in the oven to warm up, and anyone that's tried to warm chips up in the oven knows they're not the best. So anyway, Julio's opened, the farm shop expanded, got bigger, and had a video section. So I was able to rent videos from here, buy my chips, get home in at least 5 to 7 minutes. So it was brilliant. Another thing that's really sad for Weston, and I know because this gets me a bit nostalgia, but this is the bus stop I would get the bus to when I went to town. And obviously that's the bus stop I would get off coming back from town. Now, another shot of the council or the bus company or whoever it is, the public transport here has been absolutely decimated in recent years. I don't even think a bus comes down here. You used to be able to get a bus from here straight to Bristol. But yeah, cuts and everything else has meant that a lot of people, certainly older or vulnerable people, are pretty isolated. So that's another thing that's seen Worle go downhill considerably. Nowadays, the closest you can get the bus to is the farm shop, which is fine, but I just really like it was the old 5 or 5A. I really like that route up through the top part of town, so it's just a bit of a shame that you go through the number 7 to the farm shop. Also, I got a single from the town centre to the farm shop. That was £2. That is more expensive than the single bus fare in London, so I can only imagine the costs are going to go up for people. Another place that's kind of symbolic for Worle, for me at least, is the Manor. This was the local pub when I was a kid. I remember, it's just good memories. I remember coming here for a bar meal. It was my first ever bar meal. Those were the days when your starter was either half a grapefruit or a glass of orange juice. Over the years, it's had its ups and its downs, and they're trying to sort of revamp it, but, you know, it's cheap, the food's not great. The staff are always really friendly, but they only seem to have one person on. So, yeah, not what it used to be. But I still kind of have a little bit of a twinge, and I still feel the need to come here each time for nostalgia purposes. So maybe I'm getting slushy and sentimental in my old age. And this building behind me used to be a massive children's adventure playground thingy, through different variations down the years, but Charlie Chalk was particularly popular. But now, of course, it's just sitting there, I think, empty, which is a shame. Yeah, it's funny, this is the route I used to walk to school in the latter part of my time at Priory. Funny, it's not quite as nice as I remember it. It is a bit strange coming back, looking at the place you grew up 30, 40 plus years later is an interesting experience. I think being able to view it through the lens of a town was a good one. It puts a fresh perspective on things. And it's good to sort of take off those blinkers and that sort of nostalgia prejudice and see things for what they really are. And I always thought how cool it would be to live really near school, so I didn't have far to commute. But I'm probably glad we didn't move around this area. I only remember living in Worle. I lived here from 3. I have vague memories of my old place, and then moved out when I went to university. If I was to summarise my little walk down my Worle nostalgia lane, I'm going to say it's a bit sad. I'm a bit sad because as a kid I still remember everything being very new, and not shiny, but new and bold and fresh and clean. But it just seems to me that I mean, I'm not an urban planning developer or anything like that. It seems to me maybe the council could be doing a better job in keeping the communal areas clean, sorting out the pavements, keeping the grass trimmed, all the sort of basic stuff they don't seem to be doing. So, yeah, it now looks like quite a tired, old thing that's past its best. But hey, that probably applies to me too. So, yeah, I'm afraid Worle is a little bit of a turd town, but it's still home, so I've got to have a soft spot for it.